Well, good Wednesday morning, everybody. It is June 2nd, and we are diving into the 18th chapter of Acts today. We're just going to look at the first four verses of the 18th chapter today, so we're not going to get too carried away. We left Paul in Athens, and if you remember, they took him from Berea to all the way to Athens. They're trying to get him away from these bad apples that are following him around, apparently, because they took him quite a long ways. They put him on a ship, apparently, it looks like, is what we think, and he sailed around down to Athens. But now he's been in Athens. He's been doing all the things at the Areopagus, and he's had some success at bringing some of these Gentile people into the fold. But he today is taking off for Corinth. And I have to wonder, as we get ready to do just these four verses, Corinth is, of course, where we get the books of 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Those are letters Paul wrote to them. But Paul didn't write just 2 letters to the church in Corinth. Paul wrote probably more like 5 letters, and some scholars think that those 2 letters have elements of the other letters in them. Some scholars, I think, even think that there are pieces of all 5 in those 2 letters. I don't know if that seems like a bit of a reach. I do think that those letters do have some commingled letters in with them, where somebody's redacted some of the letters, but we just don't know. But he did write at least 5 letters to the church in Corinth. And Clement of Rome also wrote a letter to the church in Corinth, which is First Clement, and the same problems are going on in Corinth. So Corinth is to the church, or to Paul anyway, and to the early church with Clement, I guess, a little bit troublesome. And there's a reason for that, because you had it's kind of a place where there's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of hedonist type activity. You have some Jews there, but you've got a lot of people coming through that port city, and so there's just a lot of things going on. And if you remember 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians, there's some kind of not such nice behavior going on even within the church, and Paul's trying to deal with that. And later, Clement is dealing with them having kicked all the leadership of the church out of the church, and telling the people that are in the church that they need to welcome them back, and shaking his finger at them, kind of. So it is a troubled place. There's a lot of turmoil, a lot of Gentile influence, a lot of hedonistic behavior, that kind of stuff. So that's what's going on. That's what we're going to get into as he's dealing with the creation of the church in Corinth. Okay. So we're just going to look at the first 4 verses again today, chapter 18, 1-4. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. There he found a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had ordered all Jews to leave Rome. Paul went to see them, and because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them, and they worked together. By trade, they were tent makers. Every Sabbath he would argue in the synagogue and would try to convince Jews and Greeks. Well, Jews and Greeks, because they've got the God-fearers there, but you also have a lot of Gentiles in that city. And so the church in Corinth would have been made up of some people that came directly from pagan worship. That's why the whole issue with eating the bread or the meat sacrificed to idols that you'll deal with in the Corinthians, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. But here, what we learn some more about Paul. We learn he's a tent maker, which we didn't. I don't believe we knew that before. I don't think it's been mentioned in Acts yet. So we learn a little more about Paul, and that's interesting. And one of the interesting things we see Paul doing here, as he's going about setting up this church, he's not doing what he was doing in Athens, where he was out preaching in the marketplace. It doesn't appear. He's just going to the synagogue at this point. And the rest of the week, he's busy helping Aquila and Priscilla with their business. And he's helping them make tents, paying for his room and board, basically, by helping them out. And here we have a witness to us about the way we should live our lives. He's doing that, working on making tents. But I'm positive, knowing Paul, that as business people came in, people coming, or individuals coming in, needing their tents or needing tents repaired, I suspect they probably did tent repairs on tents as well, just because of the time. People wouldn't just, things weren't disposable in those days. You kept them. So as he's dealing with those people, I very strongly suspect Paul is also talking to them about his Christian faith, about his belief in Jesus as the Messiah. And so this I see as a witness to us about how we live our life, how we go through our daily routine, and we try to be a daily witness. I be a blessing to someone today, talk to them about Jesus. I mean that. That's, try to talk to at least one person a day about Christ. That should be your goal. And try to live up to that model that Paul is modeling for us here. He's working and doing a job, but he's still witnessing, and he's still going to the Sabbath on the weekends. And it says argue there, but he's using that sounds harsh to us, and Paul is very well schooled in Greek rhetoric, which also sounds harsh to us, but it just means that ways to convince people to come over to his way of thinking. Paul is very skilled in the art of convincing people. Let's look at it that way rather than arguing per se. All right. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Just a short one today, just 4 verses. Tomorrow, Timothy and Silas are going to finally catch up with Paul. He's been racing ahead of them. Kind of makes you wonder, why did he leave? They sent him to Athens, said, come meet me in Athens. And then he bugs out and goes to Corinth. What's up with that, Paul? So you never know what Paul's going to do next. I think that's kind of what Silas and Timothy are always thinking. So with that, have a blessed day. And please, please, please be a blessing to someone today. We'll see you later, Phyllis. God bless you. Bye-bye.